Welcome back to Devil's Creek, Alexandria.
I pressed my lips together and nodded. Mr. Salvatore? Arlo glanced over my shoulder at his sons.
Show our guest to her room and then join me in my office. We have business to discuss.
Let's go.
Marcello groaned as he passed me.
Your room is on the second floor.
Arlo patted his son's shoulder. I followed Marcello down the long, tiled hallway. Luca disappeared in the opposite direction with his father, while the adopted Salvatore stayed on my tail. Marcello led me to the Tuscan-style entryway on the east side of the house. A monstrous crystal chandelier hung overhead the ornate wooden staircase with the same Salvatore serpent carved into the railing. Without breaking stride, Marcello carried my suitcases upstairs. He didn't speak a single word, which only caused my heart to pound as adrenaline flooded my veins. Marcello rolled my suitcases down a beautiful Brazilian walnut floor that was polished to perfection on the second floor. A dozen doors, most of which were closed, spanned the length of the corridor. There were 4 floors, not including the basement and attic. Marcello stepped through the open door at the end of the hallway. Bracing myself for my new life, I sucked in a few deep breaths. The room had a high ceiling, an ensuite bathroom, and a 4-poster bed with tons of pillows. Straight ahead, the French doors opened onto a large balcony. Marcello left my suitcases in front of the closet door. He swiped the fallen strands of hair off his forehead as he walked toward me.
Get comfortable, Princess. You're not leaving your tower.
I closed the distance between us and lowered my voice. Marcello, I know you're not like them. He considered my words for a second, then laughed.
You know nothing about me or my family.
I'm good at reading people. You don't want to be here any more than I do.
When my father makes a deal, it's unbreakable by the other party.
His jaw hardened as our eyes met.
Defy him, and he will make you regret it. No matter how smart you think you are, he's smarter. He's stronger and faster and has more money and connections.
So this is it? I'm stuck here. Marcello shrugged.
Might as well settle in and take advantage of the perks.
I was in the arms of my savage knights and right where I belonged. I leaned into Bash and whispered, "Then why does he act this way?" Bastian rolled his broad shoulders.
He hasn't been as bad since you moved into the house with us.
I chuckled. He was worse before? I doubt that.
You mellow him out. Just knowing you're under our protection brings him some relief.
Because he's afraid of losing his pawn, not because he gives a shit about me.
Not true,
Marcello said in a deep tone that forced me to look at him.
We all care about you, Princess. Even Luca. He has a different way of showing it.
Damien nodded to confirm.
The Knights will do anything for you, pet. Kill for you. Die for you. Whatever you need. We take our oath seriously.
This wasn't the first time I'd heard the same thing from the other guys. They must have all rehearsed this oath, a vow to protect their queen at all costs. Luca hung up the phone a minute later and spun around to face us. I could see the madness dance across his handsome face, twisting his gorgeous lips into a snarl. I pushed myself up from the couch and walked toward him. Luca just stood there, hands on his narrow hips, pushing his suit jacket to the side. He had 2 guns holstered on his chest. My devil looked so damn sinister and tempting. I stopped in front of him and inched my fingers up his muscular arm. Thank you, Luca. I know you saved me from those men, that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. His snarl quickly transformed into a semblance of a smirk. Would it have killed him to smile? I know you mean well, even if your approach is terrible. He snickered.
My approach is effective.
Not quite, I remarked. He stared into my eyes for the longest few seconds of my life. When Luca looked at me, it was as if he stared through me, like he was searching my soul. Of all the Salvatore boys, he was my biggest weakness, the one I wanted the most because I couldn't have him. He never let me get too close. He never wanted me to see the darkness inside him, even though he couldn't hide from me. That was my skill. I could draw the truth out of anyone. With a swipe of my brush, I told the world stories about all of them. My handsome princes, the men I couldn't imagine living my life without now that we had formed those bonds. Since he didn't recoil from my touch, I took that as a sign I could let my hands wander. Luca often looked disgusted by any form of affection. He hated intimacy and made that abundantly clear over the years, so it surprised me when he didn't push my hands off his chest. I moved them higher and wrapped my arms around his neck. Luca lifted my feet off the ground, his lips inches from mine. We looked into each other's eyes and breathed against each other's lips. I thought he would kiss me, but he pulled his head back and set my feet on the floor.
I have to ask you something.
He peeled his hands from my waist and got on one knee as he reached into his pocket. A dark blue box sat in his palm. I gasped as he opened the top, revealing a massive round diamond. It twinkled when the light hit it just right. The ring must have cost him a small fortune.
Drea,
he said as he held out the box for me to get a better look at the ring.
Will you marry me? Luca cupped my shoulder, snapping my attention back to reality. We'll find her. Give it time. They will sell her to the highest bidder. Savannah wants the bounty, Luca said with certainty. She'll hand Alex off and go on her way. I know what Savannah wants. I shoved his hand off my shoulder, not wanting to be touched. The people she's working with are a wild card. If they want the bounty, they have to keep her alive until the auction. We don't know the motivations of the people she's working with, I said, with a hint of anger in my tone, not meant for my brother. What if this is about revenge? What if the person who bought her only wanted to torture and kill her to hurt us? The sickos in our world never kept women alive for long. They either hurt them so badly that they died from their injuries or put them out of their misery. The organizers of the private auctions didn't reveal the buyers' identities, so we had one option. Find Alex before they moved her to the Il Circo location. My fingers itched as I waited for a text message with the details. They didn't hold auctions in the same place more than once, making it harder for us to anticipate their next move. All the knights had placed bids to give us the auction location. Don't blame yourself for this, Marcello. None of us saw Savannah coming. Luca leaned into my arm, throwing some of his weight into me. I spoke with Carl. He forced Savannah to hand over her key when he disowned her 30 years ago. He rolled his shoulders, a perplexed expression on his face. I don't know how she did it, but I guess she made a copy of the key. You couldn't walk into a hardware store and have a skeleton key reproduced, so she must have found someone who specialized in the art of key making, someone who could create a mold and melt down the brass to form the correct shape. I nodded. Yeah, but I still feel responsible. She would still be with us if we hadn't stopped at the vault. Then blame me. Luca took a deep breath and turned his head away, staring at the far end of the helipad. I asked you to accompany me to the vault. There was no point in going back and forth with my brother. We both felt guilty. It was too late to talk about what we should or shouldn't have done. The only way out is through. The local knights gathered on the helipad at my estate, waiting for Luca to issue an order. Carl Wellington stood beside my father and shot me a stern look. The Wellingtons had every reason to blame us. We had made a promise to protect our queen at all costs. Sonny and Drake stopped in front of me. Drake was busy typing on the iPad in his hand.
I located the Basile shipping container.
Sonny chewed on his lip.
We didn't understand why their container was the only one that disappeared.
Now it all makes sense. Before I got shot, someone had stolen the Basile's container while it was in transit to the port. The Knights had met with Carl the day we discovered the theft. We handled illegal shipments for the Basile crime family monthly. The Russians' ambush was convenient timing because the container went off our radar the same day. I looked at Sonny for answers. "What did you find in the container?" Drake held out the iPad. "You'll want to see this." My brother leaned over my shoulder to look at the screen. The man in the video walked into the empty shipping container and ripped a white piece of paper off the wall. Luca stiffened beside me. He unfolded the paper and held it up to the camera for us to see. Luca gasped as he read the handwritten note. My heart raced so quickly that my pulse pounded in my ears, beating so loudly I could hardly hear my brother speaking to me. "They stole their own container," I said in disbelief. Luca nodded. "The 15th anniversary of Mom's death is coming up. Lorenzo Basile has waited a long time to get revenge. He was waiting for Alex to take her place with the Knights. Aiden, too." Luca's jaw clenched as he looked at me. Then he turned to Sonny and Drake. "Does Wellington know yet?" They shook their heads in unison. "With both of his pawns out of play, maybe he'll get off his ass and offer us the help of the Founder Society." Luca pushed past them and headed straight to Carl Wellington. I stayed behind and took the iPad from Drake's hand to reread the note. "We captured your queen, took your knight. Make your move."